I'm Maria Hall Brown, and this is LA Currents. From construction to renovation, from bridges to trees, and everything in between. The Department of Public Works is responsible here in Los Angeles, and they are overseen by 5 wonderful commissioners. I'm delighted to be joined today by the President Pro Tem, Commissioner Mike Davis.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, this is a beautiful room, by the way, so this is your boardroom.
This is my boardroom. It's a wonderful place to do business, and since the inception of the construction of the building, this chamber has been here.
Wonderful. Okay, so it's a kind of a complex world in which you live.
Yes.
Because as the only full-time oversight and policy-making commission for the city, I mean, it's almost, me trying to learn how it works was a little complex. So in a very simplified version, how does the commission work with the Department of Public Works, and how do you guys lead the charge, so to speak?
Sure. The Board of Public Works is very unique in the sense that it has both administrative authority as well as public policy authority. So we have some oversight over the administrative units. There are 5 within our department, and yet we meet 3 times a week, now 2 in this COVID environment. And in those meetings, we help to establish policy. So that's how the governance of the Board of Public Works works. We are responsible for helping to deliver the infrastructure services for the city of Los Angeles. And that means contract administration, it means sanitation, it means street lighting, it means street services, and finally it means engineering. These are the 3 administrative infrastructure units in the city of Los Angeles that we are fortunate enough to oversee.
Okay, so there's this Board of Commissioners.
Yes.
And the commission is actually appointed.
Yes.
Okay, so you all come from a vast array of different
backgrounds
absolutely.
and experiences.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We each bring something unique to the table, and when we look at the services that are provided by the units that we oversee, you see a multiple choice of various talents and skills that each of those departments help to deliver services for the citizens of Los Angeles as well. So it's appropriate that we have an interdisciplinary group of leadership from the Board of Public Works.
Okay, so that was one of the things that I found to be fascinating, is you all have your own assignments.
Yes.
I mean, you
that
talk
is true.
about, so how are the assignments designated, and where, and I know where you are,
Sure.
but how are you in the position that you're in, and what are the things that you look out over?
Sure. Of those bureaus that I mentioned, I am the liaison for contract administration. Contract administration is responsible for overseeing the construction work and permits for those who want to do construction in the city of Los Angeles. I always say in contract administration that we inspect what we expect. And so having said that, we are the inspection agency that goes out to the sites to make sure that contractors have done what their contracts said that they would do. And each of my colleagues have responsibilities as liaison to the remaining bureaus. Of course, that would mean street lighting, street services, sanitation, and engineering.
Okay, so there are bureaus.
Yes.
And there are offices.
Yes.
So 5 bureaus?
That is correct.
And then there are a
We have an
litany of
account.
offices
That's
as
correct.
well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in regards to what you particularly do,
Sure.
a need comes in to the city of Los Angeles for X, Y, and Z.
Sure.
And the invitation to bid goes out. Then
Sure.
what happens?
After the bidding process, which we have, which is regulated in terms of the rules of contracting, then the bids come to the city, to the Board of Public Works, and we oftentimes confirm the bid because there is a regulated process that the bids come in, and it's a public process. And after the administrators for Public Works determine who the first bidder is, and of course the second and third, they present that to us and we vote to confirm it, policy, here on the board. That's basically how it works. But in terms of contractors doing their work, contract administration sends teams of inspectors out to the site. When we look at business inclusion and diversity, The contract administration is the inspector to see what we can expect in terms of what you've written in the contract. So we go out to verify those things. And so that's what we do in contract administration. And that is how it works in the city of Los Angeles. And of course, the quality of the work that you do is equally important. We want to make sure that the quality of the construction that you do is what it was supposed to be according to the agreements in the contract.
So you go out with whom?
Our inspectors. We have a list of inspectors who work in the Contract Administration Bureau. And those contractors go out to the various sites to inspect the various projects for which the city of Los Angeles have agreements. And we make sure, once again, that they are doing what they said they were going to do on paper.
All right, so I have like 19 questions, but I'm going to ask you
Sure.
a really silly one to begin with.
Sure.
Just because, you know, you're talking about some of the roles that you have to perform.
Sure.
Have you become like a construction expert in the last 7, 9 years?
Well, I have certainly had a greater appreciation for construction since in their last 8 years.
Right.
And I really value the work that our prime contractors do in helping to build Los Angeles. And I have a great appreciation for contract administration because it is very much dependent on us doing our jobs, making sure that we're getting what we are paying for.
Yeah.
So it's a role that we take very seriously, and we know it makes a difference that Los Angelinos can count on their contract administration bureau to do the job that we were hired to do.
Now, you also mentioned the fact that in terms of diversity and equity, I mean,
Yes.
that is really an integral part of your responsibilities.
Yes.
So how has that impacted, you know, the whole process and what you look for, and how are we doing?
Well, as you know, we are in a very unique environment in California. We have public policies, which is one of my areas of study as well, where we have Proposition 209 that said we should not give preferences based upon race or gender, but yet at the same time, we know that we have 50% of the funding that generates construction coming from the federal government. Right. And the federal government says that it should be equal and that everyone should have an opportunity to be recruited, interviewed, and to work. So we have a bifurcated environment in many ways. And so what we want to make sure of is that our leaders, the city council and the mayor's office, that we follow their vision as well. And their vision is inclusion for all of the taxpayers in Los Angeles. And so how do we run public works in the city of Los Angeles? We make sure that we have an open environment and that we choose the best person and that every community gets an equal opportunity in which to be included in the work that we do. We do over $500,000 a year in city and local funding. And we want to make sure that that money, as it most possibly can, gets an opportunity to be available for all Los Angelinos. We have certain areas where we have high unemployment rates. We know that the construction work that we do is a tool by which we can increase employment opportunities. So diversity and equity is important, and construction is the tool by which we can help to achieve some of the diversity and equity that we talk about.
Does that change the bidding process slightly in that you're looking at the organization at large, not just the fact that it's going to come in efficiently and inexpensively, but the diversity of their workforce or who they're willing to hire in order to get a project done? I mean, has that shifted somewhat, or are there more larger parameters that you're looking at now that perhaps you didn't in the past?
We hope that based upon what we have observed, that the project's quality will always be A1, and that the choices that contractors make will equally be A1. We have people from various communities, whether you're talking about East LA and or South Los Angeles or Pacoima in the Valley, who have construction and apprenticeship individuals whose quality of work is A1. So when a prime contractor chooses someone in Los Angeles, regardless of where that person lives, we have the faith that they will choose the A1 person. And so when you ask me about the costs, the cost should not be impacted in terms of the choice that a prime contractor makes, because when he chooses A1 people, based upon his analysis and evaluation, he's going to deliver us what many of them have been delivering to us, which is an A1 construction project. And that A1 construction project can take place with employees in any part of Los Angeles when they use the tools to analyze a person based upon the quality of their work. And that person can be found in any community in this city.
You know, that whole issue of diversity, equity, and inclusion has sort of become sort of a buzz phrase over the last year.
It's a national phenomenon.
It is indeed, but it's been a passion of yours since the very beginning of your public life.
I mean, that is true.
No, it has. I mean, I know that you even worked really hard for the original fight of having our heroes be celebrated, i.e. Martin Luther King.
Yes.
I mean, back in the 70s. So,
that's right.
You know, so this is really kind of, how are you feeling personally? Because this is something that you've been working on for a long time, and now...
Sure. Well, I love this work. I always find in my work something that I love about it, and what I love about being in public works is working in contract administration, is working with our prime contractors, because they are the ones that create the work environment. They are the ones that will make decisions that can help to increase diversity. They are the ones that build Los Angeles. And so it's a wonderful experience to work with them. And I also discovered through not only being here at work, but through my extra learning, I think as an executive, we have a responsibility to continue to increase our own skills. And so I have studied the importance of organizational development, the importance of diversity, and I have in my studies, and I've studied some of the work that we do here in Los Angeles, that there are ways in which we can help our prime contractors come to a better understanding about how to achieve diversity in a safe way that we just talked about. Sometimes prime contractors benefit when they have more relationship with some of the subcontractors that perhaps they may not have had an opportunity to grow up with or to have worked with in the past. And so that familiarity for them helps them feel more comfortable as they go out to recruit and to interview. So in a nutshell, I believe that through working with our prime contractors, it is the work that helps me to enjoy what I do, because I know the power that they have to create a culture in Los Angeles to make everybody feel welcomed and everybody to belong, and that they will be surprised, we will all be surprised when we work together and continue to get the kind of quality projects that we aspire to achieve.
So there's the nuts and the bolts of the construction and all the projects that we have going around the city, but there's also the workforce development, and that's part of your realm as well. So what kind of impact can you have on workforce development to have the force needed to be part of these contractors and subcontractors that will build a better LA?
One of the things that I work with in contract administration is project labor agreements. The unions in Los Angeles are also a very critically important organization because they provide the job training and skills to allow people to have a living wage. And in many of our projects where we are not able to include the individuals we'd like to, we work with the labor unions, and they have been able to train.
Are they more flexible than one would assume?
Oh, they're very flexible, but I like the fact that they give the jobs and skills and training that creates careers. It's not a McDonald's job, and I love McDonald's, quite frankly. I'm expecting my burger to come any minute, but but when we get something from the union, we get an apprenticeship and a career.
Oh, nice.
And so this is, I think, in the job that I have, what is very rewarding.
It's such a complicated realm, but you have an interesting perspective in the fact you mentioned being an assembly member, but you also have, you know, from a national perspective, from a state perspective, and, you know, from a civic local perspective, you have had quite a career.
I started out working in the state legislature with Assemblywoman Maxine Waters during that period of time. I was able to work in the Congress with her in the House of Representatives as her district director at the federal level, her first term. And then I also was fortunate to work in the Board of Supervisors with Supervisor Yvonne Burke in the county One of the duties I had there was the liaison to the County Public Works Department.
Oh.
And then after having done that, I was very fortunate to run for state assembly, and I was able to be the assemblyman in the very office that I started out as a field rep in with Congresswoman Waters' office.
Wow.
So I ended up being the assemblyman in the office where I started my career in the 48th Assembly District, which covered South Los Angeles and USC area. And then after having done that, I ran for city council. And after that, I felt that not getting that seat, that it was important to continue to help other progressive leaders to get to leadership. And I supported a man who I thought was going to make a difference, Eric Garcetti. And I was so happy to have done that. He was able to win. And so in looking at that, I've had the experience by having been appointed eventually to the Board of Public Works. I've had experience at all levels of government. What have I learned from that, you ask?
Mm-hmm.
I have learned the roles and responsibility of each level of government. And when I am able to come to a problem, I am able to comprehensively be able to identify which level of government can help us to resolve that problem. And most of the time, it is not something within the area of city government in a municipal way, but it might be something that has state impact or federal impact. So the experience I've had over time helps me to comprehensively help resolve problems and to, most importantly, know which referral to make to get all of our problems resolved to move forward on the projects that come before us.
Okay, well, the projects that come before you, obviously, it's a cooperative board. You all have your areas in which you focus, et cetera. However, Los Angeles has a vast array of concerns when it comes to public works. And one of the big ones, obviously, is the fact that, any aging city, despite its location, is going to have to deal with infrastructure collapse in certain areas. And we've had our own share. So how are we faring trying to build a new city while trying to keep the old one still afloat? And we had that terrible sewage problem just a few weeks back, et cetera. So how is all that in check and balance? And how are we, if you wanted to grade LA right now in the realm of public works, how are we doing?
We are the second largest city in the United States of America. And that's in terms of looking at the geographic area as well. We're huge. I think Houston may possibly be geographically a little larger than us, maybe. But how have we done with these very unexpected problems with a metropolis like a Los Angeles? I think we have done certainly above average in terms of being able to pick up, dust off, and come back like a BC powder. Which we were able to do with the spill. And it is not easy because, again, age is what it is, whether it's us getting older or whether it's the infrastructure getting older. One of the things that I think is the core value for those who are in public works or in government, period, the core value of what we do ought to be service delivery. How can we deliver our service in a way in which it is acceptable and it is appropriate? And so when things pop up that we did not prepare for, our ability to bounce back becomes critically important. So I give us an above average. I think when we look at the spill, we immediately and expeditiously communicated with the constituents, and we were able to put administrative protocols in place. And we consistently are doing that to not only resolve the immediate problem, but to look forward towards the long-term response in the future to such circumstances. And I think that we have done that, and we're continuing to do that. Finally, we need to look at technology. Yeah. How can technology help us to be better? And so when we look at what we do in public works, we are clearly above average, and more than that, we are leaders in terms of using technology to help resolve some of our current problems and to help us with long-term planning.
So what are the fun things that we are doing technologically in the future that the Department of Public Works, I almost said DPW, is involved in? What are some of the cool things that maybe all of you in the commission know, but maybe the general populace would be excited to learn about?
I'm trying to figure out what is the most or what is the coolest thing. Well, certainly with technology, it helps you to expedite scheduling of things. I think that we have some technology, for example, in street lighting that is very unique, that is centralized apparatuses that can help cut the lights up and help decrease the lighting in the whole city. I think that's very cool. Kind of like what you would do in your living room when you go to the wall and you cut the lights up and you cut them down. I think the fact that we can do that in our city lighting situation is very unique. And there are numerous technologies that sanitation is using in issues of sustainability that I think are effective. And then when we look at street services, we look at the pavement, cool pavement, that when implementing it on our roads, in particularly the hot summers, it makes the whole street and community a little cooler than it would have normally been. We also are looking at technology in terms of how we can coordinate with our street inventory, our tree inventory as well. So you'll find a collaboration on many of the aspects of public works, and that we are more effective in scheduling for results and getting and managing those things for which we have responsibility.
You know, you said something about the city being more nimble and more efficient in terms of being able to do things because of technology.
Sure.
And I have to say that one of the things that I was very impressed is also transparency, because all of your meetings, your agenda, all of your concerns, everything are immediately up. I could look at what you guys were talking about yesterday.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
I think that that is probably something that, I don't know if it's new or if it's just more advanced, but that helps, I would imagine, your constituency stay in the know.
Absolutely. We're very efficient and very effective in terms of transparency, and we run that way. As a result of that, it has a great and positive impact on the culture in public works. And that's why we don't have some of the problems that some organizations have, because at our center is transparency, particularly in my area of contracting. We want it to be that way. When we talk about bidding, the rules around bidding are publicized and it's run on schedule. And again, we don't get involved in that process. I don't get in the weeds of that. When it comes to us, we confirm it. Our administrators know what to do, and it's nothing for us to do but to accept what we know has been processed, has been reviewed, and appropriate action has been taken. And we confirm that, and we move forward. And what we do, again, is inspect what we expect when we go out to the sites to make sure that contractors have done what they said they were going to do on paper.
Along with all of the work, which seems overwhelming and a little intimidating as far as I'm concerned, you know, you've also done some remarkable work in celebrating. As I mentioned, you know, you were fought early on for Martin Luther King being a national holiday.
I did.
But here in Los Angeles, you've also been celebrating a wide array of really important people who have impacted our community. And I know that that's been a priority for you.
We as leaders, our core responsibility ought to be to recognize others and their contribution to our society. And that's what I try to do in the work that we do in collaboration with the mayor's office. I remember having in 2015, we did the Watts celebration. From that resurrection there. We were able to honor people in Watts who were still making a difference in healthcare, in education, in the arts, and also African American Heritage Month, which I do every year. I was very fortunate enough to be selected to help coordinate that, and I've done that pretty much at several levels of government, but we have honored individuals who've made a positive contribution to our society over the years, not only in the traditional professions, but also in the arts. We've honored from Johnny Mathis to Dionne Warwick to John Legend and many others. And we have honored, again, people in every field of human endeavor here in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is a wonderful place with great talent. And one of the things we want to do in leadership is to embrace that talent and to honor and recognize those contributions.
Okay, so you are President Pro Tem of this commission.
I am.
So what does that mean?
Well, it means that the president, the vice president, and the president pro tem is third in leadership to the Board of Public Works. My areas of interest, in addition to the assignments I have, is organizational leadership, making sure that we are the most dynamic, most effective, most efficient organization that we can be, to have conversations with our leaders around core issues that are unique to us as an organization. For example, I help to chair the contract committee that makes sure that we have community contracting. Through community contracting, we're able to put together smaller bids on projects and breaking projects down so that smaller businesses can compete. Oh. That helps to increase more opportunities for those individuals. Also, another problem that we have had, again, is the increase of diversity that you mentioned. So I sit on a committee that helps to look at ways in which we can help prime contractors and others who are contracting to include others. And then the third thing that I work with is we had an underrepresentation of certain communities. And in terms of engineering, we had an underrepresentation of African American engineers a few years ago. We were able to look at the numbers of individuals in Los Angeles who were not attending USC and UCLA engineering programs because the matriculation of African Americans there was very minimal. But what we did was say that we are a city where we want every community to have an opportunity to recruit and interview. So we looked at the fact that some of those students go to historically black colleges and universities, and we were able to be open because they are from Los Angeles. That just happens to be where they go to school, that we would be open for recruiting and engineering for those students to come as well, to have an opportunity to talk about their possibility of working for the city of Los Angeles. So that is also a committee that I work on, and we do it with all engineering hiring committees. And these are the kind of committees that I work on that impact the entire organization.
All right, so this is, an impossible question to ask, but I will. If you could create, a wonderful opportunity or a perfect vision of how you see things in the next 5 years, what would you hope for Los Angeles?
I would hope that we continue. I look at not only our challenges, our weaknesses, I look at our strengths. And we have many strengths. Our strength is our people, who are our resources. Our challenge is to include those people in the work that we do. So that's what I work on. That's what I'm passionate about. So as I look forward, I like the 6th Street Bridge. I like the DGUP project. And I would like for us to continue to do career changing projects that will be a role model and the envy of other municipalities. And kind of in a real way, we are already that because of our weather, because of our people. But I want us to continue as it relates to public works, to build the kind of projects that others can only dream of here in the city of Los Angeles. So if I had to look back at what I'd like to have for Los Angeles in the future, it would be that kind of dynamic, innovative, and creative construction work being done here.
So if people want to learn about what's going on here in this boardroom and out in the Department of Public Works, how can they find out?
That would be dpw.lacity.org.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you.
Really, really fun to talk with you. Really fun to be in this room, and I can't wait to see you again.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank
you tested my memory.
That's good. That's good. And that's a wrap on this LA Currents.